Next. Anybody want to follow me?
When the zoning permit was issued, and you were not privy to the sketch that we received, it stated that the proposed garage was to be even with the existing edge of the house. Mr. Solouri, when he was here a couple of months ago, also stated here to us that Mr. Bender had cautioned him to keep the garage even with the front of the house. I have it on tape. So that starts off, it bothers me a little bit. Both the zoning permit and the building permit, which I went to the county and got, show that the garage was to be a separate accessory structure and even with the house. There was no breezeway in either the zoning permit or the building permit. The breezeway seems to have been an afterthought. It kind of bothers me. That kind of makes me say, well, I think I'll go get a zoning permit, and once I got the permit, I'll just do it my way. That's the feeling you get when you look at this. Okay, the structure in question is not even with the house and has been connected to the house, resulting in the expansion of a non-conforming structure. You can't expand a non-conforming structure. That's in the zoning law. Your statement about the rear lot line being across the road, if you go back and you read in here, it says that if a lot adjoins two or more roads or highways, it shall be deemed to have a front lot line respectively on each. If you read a little further, rear lot line. A rear lot line shall not be adjacent to a front lot line. That line on the other side of the road cannot be a rear lot line because it would then be adjacent to the front lot line because it faces the road. That's the way the county looks at it. Okay, what else have we got? In order to consider a variance, and I have to admit, when this issue first came up, I even went to the ADA law to see if there was anything that we had missed in our zoning law that would be trumped by the ADA. There isn't. I tried to my best to come up with a way to let this be. Right now, the way it looks, the only way that you can really make progress towards the variance is to back that garage up to 16 inches it's supposed to be and disconnect it from the house, because you didn't follow the zoning permit and you've expanded a non-conforming residence. That's my comments.
Keith?
I can say very little else that what's already been said. My problem is that I wish that we would have had this before.
Yes.
Instead of this, I mean, like on this other drawing, it looked like somebody just drew it without a ruler or anything. And it was said that Solouri's precaution that they have to ensure that the front of the garage is parallel or meets with the front of the house. On this newer map that we're seeing here, it says that this breezeway, although I do like the breezeway, whether it's conforming or non-conforming, is 5 feet. I measured at 5 feet 6. And I also measured the eave.
It actually has it on the original map.
I know, but this one says 5 feet.
Yeah.
The eave is approximately 12 inches from the garage, which would match the house, but that we can't use that, can we?
And then you gotta count you gotta count the inches on the front of the garage too.
Okay.
It didn't say line up with the eaves of the house.
This is one of the most
It's so it's an
things I've seen
interpretation
since I've
from
been on
you.
the board.
It is a difficult one. It's not an easy one. The significance of the decision is what makes it hard.
My concern is, and I don't think this is personal at all, Mr. Bender gave the building permit. And in good faith, Mr. Solouri hired a contractor to build. Now, had this been caught when foundations were being put in, etc., it would be a little bit easier. But now that we have a $40,000 plus structure put up, I cannot, in good conscience, say, tear it down.
think the permit was given erroneously, it shouldn't have been given. But there were two stipulations that I understand the zoning officer said. One, check with the highway, which happened, and then this, keep it even with the existing structure. And the eaves of the garage are distinctly in front of every house. There's no doubt about it, it's in front of the house. And so it bothers me that the two conditions the zoning officer did ask for, that one wasn't met. The building is mostly built. It looks good. I like the breezeway myself. It's a nice architectural design feature. I looked it up on Wikipedia. I like it. I'm not exactly prepared. Well, our charge is to decide whether or not the benefit to the applicant outweighs the detriment to the community. That's our main category. And then we have these different criteria that we're supposed to look at. Some of the criteria you don't meet, like is it substantial? I consider it substantial. Does it hurt the neighborhood? I don't really think a garage hurts the neighborhood. So I basically think the benefit to the applicant does outweigh the detriment to the community and to the neighborhood.
I made some comments on definitions first, and most of the other comments I have relate to what I've already said. I agree that, first of all, we have a zoning enforcement officer that should be out checking on site, and we're in the middle of a transition. And Ed's defense, besides some health problems, is he took the diagram that came into him and issued a permit based on a diagram that's not correct. The distances are wrong, and so part of the error is not necessarily entirely his. As soon as the problems were identified, that's the trouble. And what makes it difficult for all of us is there's already been a lot of money invested. But I also, we're faced with, first off, an applicant should know what the zoning code is for Cape Vincent. It's under, I was drilled into me again this last week, under New York State and law, it's the citizen's responsibility to know the rules. We don't have to go out and pound it into them with an enforcement officer or with anything else. We make it, when we had a public hearing a year ago, it was available. We had 800 hits in a short period of time of people looking at it. We had very little problem with the document as it was written. So it's always a work in progress. Some of the definitions could be much better than they are now. I still think we have a good enough description of what's a front lot line and what's an area of exclusion. For my purposes, maybe we need to clarify what's a public access for pavement and what's a setback. But if I were going to, right out of the blue, look at this proposal as a request for variance, first of all, trying to squeeze it in the area that it's in right now, I would have made the garage shorter and narrower. Because it's forced out, it's still not conforming with the line of the house. As you get further downstream, you are getting closer to the road. And even according to this diagram, it shows the center of the road being 30 feet from the corner of proposed garage in the diagram that was submitted. And our pavement that's maintained by the town is 15 feet. So that only leaves you 15 to 18 feet, and you should have 25. Sure.
I think that what we have to really do is go back to the very beginning of this, and I don't want to sound like heartfelt emotion here, but when we did the thing about the test or the class that we took, when the man said, you've got two answers, do you want the short one, do you want the long one? And the first one was tough. It's my feeling that when, I keep wanting to say plaintiff, but when Mr. Solouri went to the zoning board, or the ZEO, and Ed said, okay, yeah, this is okay, I don't really, I mean, if it was me, I would have said, hey, great, I'm going to build a garage. I would not go and look through all of his mounds of papers to see if I was compliant.
Right.
And sometimes you just have to say, tough. If we vote no on this, what's your solution, Mr. Martin?
No, we're not doing that.
Well, okay, then, Mr. Chairman, what is our solution? If we say no, what's our alternative?
There's a number of options. Actually, Ed already presented one. You could, first of all,
That's going to be
you could
$20,000.
issue a permit as is. That's one issue we can do tonight. If you
I
wanted
thought that
to.
that's what was going to happen.
Another issue is we would not give you this permit, but we would ask that you modify it in order to keep it standing. And that could be a modification of the breezeway, a modification of the front of the garage. Those are three options I can think of offhand.
See, Keith, I don't have a problem with the aesthetics of the building. I have a problem with the law in itself, and the matter of the fact that he did not build what he applied for to build.
Then why was there not an inspection made at the initial onset of construction?
I haven't got an answer to that. If we had a building code enforcement officer, there would have been, and it would have been stopped. And I would love to see the town board create our own building code enforcement officer, because when he put the footing in, he could have stopped it right there. And we don't have a code officer.
Just for clarification, people, that's why the county and John Wiley came down, because the county enforces our code inspection. And the town has got its own zoning, so we're working with two different people. Well, I need somebody to make a proposal, or if you don't like a proposal and we vote no and we try something else.
All right, I'll make a proposal, and I'll even compromise. He was told, he admitted he was told that he had to build the structure even with the front of the house. There was no breezeway included. He's already got the breezeway on there. I would propose that if he were to back up the front of that garage, not the entire garage, just back the one front up. It's 16 inches, that means going back one stud. It's going to cost you a few bucks to go back one stud so it's even with the front of the house. I would propose that we do that and grant the variance. Leave the breezeway.
Can he rewrite the variance?
We can modify it as long as we have agreement. And he wants it. First, I think we would have to be correct for the record, deny what's being requested. But we could indicate what we would accept. If that is, and if the resolution, the second resolution would be that we give him something that isn't exactly what he asked for, but this is what we would accept.